You people don't belong in the front row." Those words cut through the air like a sharp knife. Maya Collins stopped moving, her coffee tray shaking in her hands. Her smile disappeared for the first time that day. Her clean uniform suddenly felt too tight, and she felt everyone looking at her. But the words weren't the worst part. The worst part was how people around her just looked away and pretended they didn't hear anything, like her feelings didn't matter, like she wasn't worth defending. But Ethan Ward heard everything. He heard every single word from his wheelchair in the corner, surrounded by empty chairs. His hands, which once ran a billion-dollar company, gripped his wheels tighter. For a moment, it wasn't his paralyzed legs that kept him still. It was anger. The kind of anger that comes from knowing exactly what it feels like to be called "you people." This wasn't just any graduation. This was Yale University. And Ethan Ward, who grew up poor on the south side of Chicago, was now a paralyzed CEO with more money than most people in that room. He was graduating at the top of his executive MBA class, alone. The sound of clapping filled the air for other graduates. For him, there was only silence. The only thing louder than having no family around him was the emptiness in his chest. Until she walked over. Maya, the waitress who wasn't supposed to sit next to him, sat down anyway. That one action would change both their lives forever. "Hello friends, thank you so much for stopping by. Please support me by subscribing to my channel, like and share this video to your family and friends. I truly appreciate your kind heart. So let's continue. Before the billions of dollars, before the fancy offices and speeches, before the accident and cameras and silence that followed, Ethan Ward was just another name nobody cared to remember. He grew up in a part of Chicago where good futures were hard to find. The kind of neighborhood where you learned early that dreams cost money and most kids couldn't afford them. His mother, Grace Ward, worked 2 jobs at a nursing home, then walked miles to help at a soup kitchen. Not because she had extra time or energy, but because helping others made her feel human. Ethan watched his mother make $20 stretch like magic. He watched her protect his spirit when the world wanted to break it. There were nights they slept in their car when they couldn't pay rent. Times he went to school with holes in his shoes and a backpack full of used books. But he never missed a day of school. He read under broken streetlights and solved math problems on the back of napkins. He learned early that being smart could be his way out, and he worked on it every single day. He didn't just want to escape being poor, he wanted to destroy the systems that kept people poor. At 15, Ethan started building websites for local barbershops. At 16, he created a payment app that got noticed by a startup company in New York. By 18, he had his first real investment, $500,000 from someone who said, "Kid, I don't know what it is, but you've got something special." He turned that money into a financial technology company, then sold it for millions. Then he built another one and another. By age 30, Ethan Ward was the CEO of one of the fastest growing private tech companies in America, called Ward & Collins Holdings. But having money didn't quiet the doubts. Even at the top, people still questioned how he got there. They asked what he did before he was rich. They assumed his story started with success, not survival. Then came the crash. A charity helicopter ride to bring medical supplies to poor rural hospitals, one of his many good causes, ended in flames. Ethan survived, but he lost more than the ability to walk. He lost friends, trust, and the pieces of a personal life he'd barely started to build. He rolled into Yale with metal screws in his spine and grief in his heart. But he kept going because that's all he'd ever known. Keep going. And somehow, even then, he never expected that the person who would remind him how to live again would be wearing a name tag and carrying a tray. Maya Collins didn't plan on becoming invisible. It just happened slowly, gradually, like the way people stop seeing the janitor or the bus driver or the woman cleaning tables while they laugh over dessert. She was 25, with long legs, warm brown skin, and a face people often called beautiful when they bothered to look at her. But beauty, she learned, didn't pay rent, and in her world, it didn't protect her from people's assumptions either. She grew up in Jackson, Mississippi, in a neighborhood where church choirs and gunshots often shared the same night. Her mother had died when she was 14, and after some difficult years in foster care, she went to live with her grandmother, a retired school teacher with no patience for self-pity or excuses. Maya graduated high school with top grades and got into community college, planning to study nursing. But then came the bills, and her younger brother Caleb, still in high school, needed everything: shoes, food, stability. She dropped out after her second semester and got a job waiting tables at a restaurant in downtown Atlanta. One job turned into two, then three. She became good at it. Too good. Her manager used to joke, "You smile like you mean it. Don't let the customers think you're too smart." She smiled anyway because she needed the paycheck and because she was used to playing roles. But even the best performance didn't stop the comments. "You speak really well for someone in your position. I bet your boyfriend loves it when you wear that uniform." And worse, nothing at all. Just silence and looks that screamed, "Don't forget your place." Still, she held her head high, not out of pride but survival. She couldn't afford to break down, not when Caleb was counting on her. She worked double shifts, brought home leftover bread from closing, and made sure Caleb never saw the days she didn't eat so he could. She didn't hate the job. She hated what people assumed about her because of it, that she had no goals, that she wasn't educated, that her future ended behind a tray of drinks. So when the catering company called and said they needed last-minute help at the Yale graduation, she said yes without hesitation. Another event, another paycheck, another room full of people who wouldn't really see her. What she didn't know was that one of them would. She saw him before he saw her. Not because he was hiding, no. Ethan Ward sat in plain view, front row center, his perfectly tailored navy suit, looking sharp against the gray morning sky. But there was something about the emptiness around him that made him easy to miss, like he existed on a different level, alone in a crowd. Maya was carrying a tray of water bottles toward the media table when her eyes met his. Just for a second, one quick look, but it was enough. There was no pity in his stare, no discomfort, no searching for her name tag like others often did before deciding how to talk to her. He just looked straight at her, like he saw her. Not the uniform, not the job, but the person. And maybe that's why she looked back. For Ethan, it had been months since someone met his eyes without flinching. Most people either looked past him or through him, like the wheelchair carried more weight than the man in it. But her eyes were steady, confident, curious. It surprised him. He was used to being stared at, first with admiration, then with sympathy, and lately with avoidance. But her look didn't say, "I feel sorry for you." It said, "I see you, all of you." She wasn't from this world. That much was clear. The crisp catering uniform didn't belong in this sea of designer suits and expensive dresses. But neither did he. Not anymore. And maybe that's what struck him most. She didn't fit, and she didn't seem to care. Their eye contact lasted barely 2 seconds before she turned away, focused again on her work. But Ethan couldn't look away. In that one glance, something inside him shifted. Not dramatically, not like in movies, but quietly, like a door in his chest cracked open just enough to let in some air. He didn't even know her name, but for the first time in a long time, he didn't feel invisible. And as Maya disappeared behind a wall of graduates and silver trays, Ethan found himself hoping she'd look back again, not because he needed saving, but because her eyes had reminded him that maybe he was still worth seeing. And that realization was everything. It started with a glance. Then came the whisper, short, sharp, dismissive. Who let the help sit in the front row? Maya wasn't supposed to be sitting, not according to the catering supervisor, not according to the unspoken rules of events like this. She'd finished her tasks for the hour, refilled the drink table, wiped down the podium area, and when the ceremony paused for a break, she took a seat. Not just anywhere, but next to Ethan Ward. It wasn't planned. The chairs beside him were empty, and he looked alone. Not just physically, but in that deep kind of way you can't fake. So she walked over, slow and steady, like it was the most natural thing in the world. "You don't mind, do you?" she'd asked, already halfway into the seat. "Not at all," Ethan said, his voice quiet but warm. "I was hoping you would." For a moment it felt okay, even good. The two of them just sitting there, two people from different worlds, but moving in the same direction for once. Then it came. A woman in her late 50s, pearls tight around her neck, heels clicking like punctuation marks, leaned forward from the row behind them. "Excuse me," she said, looking directly at Maya, then glancing at her name badge. "I don't think the waitstaff is supposed to sit with the guests." Maya froze. Her back straightened, her hands folded in her lap. Ethan turned his head slowly, his eyes locking onto the woman's with a calm that made the moment feel 10 times heavier. "She's with me," he said. "But this section is for graduates and their families," the woman continued, her tone sharper now. "Not for employees." Maya stood to leave, her jaw tight, her pride intact. But Ethan reached out, his fingers gently touching her wrist. "Sit," he said softly. "Please." She hesitated, then sat again. The woman huffed and turned away, muttering something about proper behavior and standards. Maya didn't say a word, neither did Ethan, but their silence spoke louder than any speech that day. He could have let her walk away, saved face, played along with the room, but he didn't. He chose her, and in that moment, surrounded by privilege and judgment, Maya realized something rare. This man, paralyzed from the waist down, had more backbone than anyone in that auditorium, and that kind of strength could not be ignored. They didn't speak for a while after the woman walked away. The ceremony had started again, names being called, applause rising and falling like waves. But Maya and Ethan sat in a quiet bubble of understanding, the kind of silence that didn't need words, just presence. It was Ethan who broke the silence first. "Do you ever get tired of explaining who you are to people who already decided not to care?" Maya looked over, her expression softening. "Every day," she said, "and I stopped trying a long time ago." Ethan nodded. The air between them felt heavier now, but not uncomfortable, just honest. He looked ahead, not at her, when he spoke next. "I was 17 the first time I got handcuffed. Walking home from the library. Someone called the cops, said a suspicious black male was hanging around a parked BMW. Maya's jaw tightened. She knew that story. Different names, different cities, same ending. "They held me face down on the sidewalk for 30 minutes, Ethan continued. "My library card fell out of my hoodie. The officer said, 'So you can read, good for you.' He chuckled, but there was no humor in it. I had a similar moment, Maya said, her voice low. I was 16, applying for a job at a coffee shop in a rich neighborhood. The manager looked me up and down and asked if I was ready to work or just there for the diversity quota. She shook her head, smiling sadly. I still took the job. Couldn't afford pride that week. Ethan turned to her then. It never really leaves you, does it? That feeling that no matter how hard you work, how smart you are, you're still one step behind someone who didn't even try. She nodded. And yet we keep trying. Because we don't get to stop, Ethan said. Because quitting was never an option where we came from. Their eyes met again, and this time there was no awkwardness, just shared understanding. Two lives carved by different struggles, but shaped by the same invisible forces, prejudice, poverty, expectations, and the quiet strength of being told no and showing up anyway. They didn't need to say they respected each other. It was already understood. In a crowd full of strangers, they had found something rare. Not pity, not admiration, but recognition, and that was more powerful than either had expected. The photo hit the internet before either of them knew it had been taken. It was a simple image. Maya sitting beside Ethan during the graduation ceremony, her posture proud, his hands resting on the arms of his wheelchair. They weren't smiling. They weren't posing. They were just sitting side by side like two people who belonged exactly where they were. But the caption told a different story. Waitress invades VIP seating at Yale graduation. It was posted by a local news blog, one that often mixed reporting with gossip. Within hours it had been picked up by national news, retweeted by influencers, and flooded with comments. Some praised Maya for breaking barriers and standing tall in a system built to keep her down. Others were less kind. Entitled much? Why do they always make everything about race? Probably planned it for attention. Maya saw it during her break later that day, scrolling through her phone while eating a leftover sandwich in the staff hallway. Her stomach dropped. She hadn't asked for this, hadn't staged anything. She'd sat down for a moment beside a man who made her feel seen, and now she was a headline. She texted Ethan, "Have you seen it?" He called her immediately. His voice was calm, but there was tension beneath it. "We're not going to let this define us," he said. "But it already is," Maya replied. "They're attacking both of us for simply existing in a space they didn't expect us to be in." Ethan didn't argue because she was right. That night, Ethan posted a statement on his social media, a short video, no script, no filters. "I am Ethan Ward. I am a Yale graduate, a CEO, and yes, I use a wheelchair. But more importantly, I am a black man who knows what it means to be excluded. Maya Collins didn't invade a space. She reclaimed the right to be seen. She sat beside me, not because I invited her, but because she refused to let me sit alone. That's not disruption, that's dignity." The video went viral. Within 24 hours, it had been viewed over 10 million times. And this time, the headlines changed. Not waitress in the wrong seat, but woman in the right place at the right time. And finally, the world began to listen. The morning after his video went viral, Ethan Ward sat at the head of a long conference table in his downtown Atlanta office. Sunlight streamed through the glass walls, casting sharp angles across polished wood and leather chairs. Behind him, the city buzzed with life. In front of him, his phone vibrated every few seconds with calls, emails, and interview requests. But his focus was elsewhere. "Get Maya Collins on the phone," he told his assistant, Margaret Collins. She blinked. "The woman from the graduation." Ethan nodded. "Yes, I want to offer her a job." Within the hour, Maya walked into the building, still in her catering uniform from her morning shift. She looked both proud and careful, her chin lifted, her shoulders squared, like she wasn't sure if this was help or another storm. "You didn't have to call me down here," she said as soon as she stepped into the room. "I already told the reporters I didn't do it for attention." "I know," Ethan said simply. "That's why I called." He pointed to a chair beside him, not across the table, but beside him. "I need someone on my team who understands the story behind the headlines, someone who knows how it feels to be overlooked, someone who won't just speak for me but with me." Maya stared at him, eyebrows raised. "You want me to work for you?" "I want you to work with me," he corrected, "as my communications assistant. Full-time, benefits, salary that respects your value. I'm building a department that doesn't just send out press releases, but tells real stories, our stories. And I need someone real beside me." Maya crossed her arms, skeptical but interested. "I don't have a degree. I've never worked in an office. I've never even owned a laptop." "None of that matters to me," Ethan said. "You've already shown me more integrity, instinct, and courage than most people with MBAs and LinkedIn profiles full of business talk." She hesitated. "I still need to support my brother. He's finishing high school. I can't just disappear into some corporate world." Ethan smiled. "Then we build a world where you don't have to choose. Flexible hours, remote work when needed. I'll make it work if you will." And in that moment, something shifted in Maya. Not because someone offered her charity, but because someone finally offered her a seat at the table. And this time she took it. 3 weeks into her new job, Maya Collins walked into the conference room at Ward Holdings with her head held high and a tablet tucked under her arm. She had learned quickly, reading, watching, absorbing everything like a sponge. She wasn't polished yet, but she was sharp, really sharp, and Ethan had noticed. But not everyone shared his vision. The board of directors sat in a semicircle of designer suits and tight smiles, reviewing her first internal communication strategy proposal. Ethan had asked her to present it herself. He said it was time. When she finished, the room was quiet. Then came the questions. "So you're proposing we feature working-class employees in the company newsletter?" one board member asked, adjusting his expensive watch. "Yes," Maya replied. "Stories from people who usually don't get interviewed. Security guards, cleaning staff, line workers. Everyone has a voice. We should hear it." Another voice chimed in. "And who decides which voices are worth hearing? You?" Maya didn't flinch. "Everyone's worth hearing. That's the point." A third board member, an older woman named Vivian Clark with cold eyes, leaned forward. "Miss Collins, forgive me, but what exactly are your qualifications to lead our company's voice?" This isn't a charity. It's a billion-dollar business. Image matters. Maya paused. She could feel the old instincts creeping in, the ones that told her to shrink, to apologize, to accept being underestimated. But this time, she didn't. She stood straighter. "My qualifications," she said, her voice calm. "I've been silenced, ignored, judged by what I wear and where I come from, and I still show up every day. And I listen. That's what qualifies me. Because you can't tell a story you've never lived." Ethan spoke next, his voice steady but firm. "Let's be clear. I hired Maya because she brings a perspective we desperately need. Our brand is stale. Our messaging sounds like every other corporate machine out there. She brings humanity. And if that makes you uncomfortable, good. Growth is supposed to be uncomfortable." He looked around the table. "You wanted innovation, this is it." The room stayed silent. No votes were taken, no one clapped, but no one objected either. And that was enough for now. Maya left the room knowing she wasn't fully accepted yet. But she also knew this. She didn't need permission to lead. She only needed the microphone. And now she had it. It was nearly midnight when Maya knocked gently on Ethan's office door. She'd stayed late, putting the finishing touches on their upcoming campaign about inclusion, vulnerability, and real leadership. She found him sitting in the dark, the city skyline glowing behind him, his wheelchair turned slightly away from his desk. "You okay?" she asked, stepping inside. Ethan didn't look up right away. He just stared out the window, eyes distant. "Do you ever feel like you're still pretending?" he asked softly. Maya set her bag down and walked closer. "Pretending what?" "That I'm not broken." His words weren't self-pity, but they carried weight, like bricks stacked inside his chest. Maya sat across from him, folding her hands on the desk between them. "You are not broken, Ethan." He let out a quiet laugh, with no humor behind it. "You know, I haven't looked at a single photo of myself since the accident. Not one. Every press release, every article, they only use headshots from before. The chair never shows. The scars never show." Maya was quiet for a moment. "Why?" He looked at her then, really looked. "Because part of me still believes people won't respect the man in the chair as much as they did the man who used to walk." She nodded slowly. "And what if they don't?" Ethan blinked, caught off guard. "What if they don't?" she repeated. "Do you respect him?" Silence again. Then she stood up, walked around the desk, and pulled out her phone. "Let's fix that." "What are you doing?" he asked. "Taking your picture. Right now, in here." "Yes, right now. In the chair. In this moment. No filters. Just you." He hesitated, then nodded. She took the photo. Simple, honest, no staging. "That's the first step," she said. "Next, let the world see it. Let them meet the man I work for, the one who fought his way back from loss and still shows up every day. Not despite the chair, but with it." Ethan stared at the image on her screen. It was raw, but it was him. And for the first time, he didn't look away. Because Maya hadn't just helped him build a voice for the company. She'd helped him find his own. Maya stood behind the podium, hands slightly shaking, but her voice clear as crystal. The room was filled with reporters, corporate leaders, and employees from every floor of Ward Holdings, from the cleaning staff to the executive team. But Maya wasn't speaking to the board. She wasn't speaking for the cameras. She was speaking for the girl she used to be. I remember what it felt like to stand in a room full of power, knowing I wasn't supposed to speak. Just pour the water, smile, and disappear. Today I get to rewrite that story. The audience was completely quiet. I was a waitress, a damn good one too. But that job didn't define me, and it doesn't define the people still wearing the uniforms I once wore. I believe brilliance lives in restaurant kitchens and night shifts, and today we're going to prove it. She took a deep breath. With the support of Ward Holdings and Ethan Ward himself, I'm proud to announce the Rise and Serve Scholarship, a full tuition program for black service workers pursuing education, certifications, or career changes. Not in 10 years, not when it's convenient, now. The room erupted in applause. Ethan, seated beside the stage, was already clapping, eyes locked on her like a proud brother, mentor, and partner all at once. The scholarship had been her idea. She came to Ethan with it 3 weeks earlier, papers in hand, numbers calculated, and fire in her voice. There are brilliant people stuck wiping tables and cleaning bathrooms because no one ever gave them a chance. I know because I was one of them, she'd said. I don't want to be the exception. I want to create the rule. Ethan didn't hesitate. He funded the first 10 recipients personally. They would start school in the fall. Word spread quickly. Within days, restaurant workers, hotel housekeepers, bus drivers, and baristas were submitting applications. Not just from Atlanta, but from all over the country. The scholarship wasn't just financial help. It was recognition. It was validation. Maya had gone from being excluded from the front row to pulling out chairs for others. And in doing so, she wasn't just changing lives, she was changing the system. Because sometimes the most powerful revolution doesn't start with a protest sign or a headline. Sometimes it starts with a woman saying, I see you, I believe in you, and you deserve more, and meaning every word. The next spring, at the same Yale auditorium where they first met, Ethan Ward returned. But this time he wasn't a student, he was the keynote speaker. The man who had once sat alone in a front row wheelchair now stood, still assisted but standing, behind a podium marked with the university's crest. The room was filled with graduates, families, and faculty. And right beside the stage, in the front row, sat Maya Collins. This time no one questioned her seat. She wore a sharp navy pantsuit, her natural curls styled back, and a pin on her lapel that read, Rise and Serve. Next to her sat 3 of the scholarship recipients, all dressed in caps and gowns, ready to walk across a stage they never thought they'd reach. When Ethan spoke, his voice didn't carry the weight of titles or status. It carried the weight of truth. You know what changed my life? He asked the audience. It wasn't success, it wasn't therapy, it wasn't even survival. It was someone who looked me in the eyes and saw a man worth sitting next to. No judgment, no agenda, just presence. He paused, glancing at Maya. We spend so much time chasing greatness, trying to sit at the right table, in the right room, with the right people. But what if the most important seat is the one we offer someone else? The room went quiet. Hearts moved. Minds shifted. After the ceremony, as cameras flashed and students tossed their caps, Ethan and Maya slipped away unnoticed. They stood under the same oak tree where she'd once offered him water, back when she was just the waitress and he was just the man no one saw. Do you ever think about how different life would have been if you didn't sit beside me that day? Ethan asked. Maya smiled. No. I think about how different the world is because I did. That's the lesson. It's not always the grand gestures that create change. Sometimes it's a small choice. A seat beside someone who feels alone. A photo that shows the whole person, not just the polished version. A scholarship that says you belong too. We all have the power to give that. So ask yourself, when the moment comes, will you turn away or will you take a seat? Because that's how change begins, with a quiet act of courage. And if this story moved you even a little, share it. You never know who's waiting to be seen. This isn't just content. This is life, and it starts with us. Dear friends, thank you so much for watching. Please support me by subscribing to my channel, and don't forget to like and share this video. It means the world to me. Take care of yourself, and never forget how much you're loved. I can't wait to see you in the next video. Sending you all my love.